It's just a little over 2 weeks to election 2024, the much awaited, much anticipated, very crucial election where a governing party is seeking to continue the reins of office after the end of its second term, where an opposition party led by a former president is seeking to do what has happened in the United States of America, winning political power once more. The political actors are busy. The campaign trail is very busy. Candidates are crisscrossing the nation, selling their messages to the electorate. The Electoral Commission says all is set. But what are the main issues that separate the MPP from the NDC? My guest today used to be the Director of Communications of the NPP, which means he was in charge of strategically communicating and selling the message of the Blue Party. Today, I'm hosting him a few weeks to the elections to ask, is Dr. Bawumia and the MPP really the best party to keep Ghana together and to continue to break the eight? My name is Umaru, Sanda, Amadu, and you're welcome to Face to Face. My guest is Nana Akomea. I have been pressing him before we started this interview to give me his English name so that I can mention it in the middle. He has refused to give it to me. He's vice chairman of the Bawumia campaign team, former MP, former director of communication of the MPP, and then the managing director of the state transport company. Nana Akomea, you're welcome to Face to Face.
Thank you, Umaru.
How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you.
Please tell me your other name.
You've come to ambush me.
I want your other name.
You told me about this interview 20 minutes ago, and because of my extreme respect for you, I agreed. So let's proceed.
It's an election year. You need to win the votes of as many people. So if I tell you 20 minutes ago, agree just means that you're a man of the people.
Yes.
So therefore, what's your English
That's
name?
why I want the interview to proceed.
What's your English
I'll
name?
tell you after the interview.
No, tell us. Are you called Cyril or something?
You married. So I'll tell you after the interview.
Watching what's happening in Parliament, do you miss it? The standoff between the NDC side, the MPP side, the speakership, and the majority NPP side, and now the Supreme Court's intervention.
No, it's an embarrassment what is happening in Parliament. It's never happened before since 1993, and I was in Parliament for a long time. You would have disagreements, verbal exchanges between speaker and majority leader, minority leader, and so on. But at the end of the day, they are able to resolve whatever. I remember the time when Bagbin himself was a minority leader, and he used to tell Peter Alajete that he's going to go after Peter Alajete. You used to have heated sessions in Parliament. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be. But at the end of the day, they are able to move forward. What is happening today, where there's almost total impasse, it's never happened, and it's all the speaker's fault. You
think the speaker is to blame, not your side?
No. Where does the MPP side come in?
That you, in the past, expelled your MP who had decided to run independent, and all of a sudden, because the numbers are not favorable to you, you're picking and choosing, and now saying that your three MPs who've decided to go independent should remain put.
What we are running today in this country is a democracy based on the rule of law.
And precedent.
Yes, on the rule of law. The law can include precedents, it can include everything. But it is based on the rule of law, not on what I think, not on what NPP thinks, not on what NDC thinks. It's on the law. Now, all of us have the right to interpret the law the way we like. If there is disagreement, the rule of law provides that when there's disagreement, we go to the Supreme Court. It's not because the Supreme Court, the people sitting on the Supreme Court, are the wisest people, but it's because that is the role given them in our democracy. That is the rule of law. The entire democracy is hinged on the resolution of disputes by the Supreme Court. Otherwise, there will be chaos.
There are people who say that this chaos you talk about, we didn't need an external intervention, and that what they always use this in Parliament is the master of his own rules. Do not let the judiciary intervene in the work of Parliament. There are people who say that. What do you say to that particular assertion?
Those people have a total misunderstanding of the democracy that we have. Nobody interferes in anybody else's business. Everybody does their mandate. The president doesn't interfere with Parliament's business when he brings business to Parliament. That's his mandate. Parliament doesn't interfere with the president's business if they refuse to approve of anything that the president brings. That is their mandate. The Supreme Court doesn't interfere in the business of Parliament when it interprets the Constitution. That is the mandate of the Supreme Court. So it is not about interference. I hear people say there is a separation of powers. Knowledgeable people, people who are lawyers, they say, oh, there's separation of powers. So each organ is separate. But they don't tell us that there's also checks and balances. Why does the president have to take his ministers to Parliament for approval? That's checks and balances. Why does the president have to sign when Parliament passes a law? That's checks and balances. Why does the president nominate the judges of the Supreme Court for Parliament to approve? That's checks and balances. So no organ is totally independent of each other. You have your mandate, and your mandate includes checks on the other organs. That's how the system moves. Otherwise, you would have absolute power. And the Constitution did not intend that anybody should have absolute power.
You said
so. Look at this scenario. Bagmin, the Speaker, gives his interpretation of a provision of the Constitution, which he thinks that should be the interpretation. Fine. Other people disagreed with that interpretation. What do? They didn't fight him in Parliament or bring chaos to Parliament. No. What they did was to do what the law provides. If you don't understand anything about the Constitution, go to the Supreme Court. That's what they did. Yeah. And the Supreme Court, in exercise of its mandate, gave a ruling. What should happen? Everybody else obeys the ruling from the Supreme Court, and the rule of law will go forward. That's why I blame Bagmin. When he gave the interpretation, and the Supreme Court asked him to stay his interpretation.
He did.
He didn't.
No, he didn't do anything.
No. What was the status quo? The status quo was that Parliament was in session. The majority party sat on the right of the Speaker, and the minority party sat on the left of the Speaker. That was the status quo.
Yeah.
Bagmin gave a ruling that these seats are empty. The people on the left then said that if Bagmin says that these seats are empty, then we are now the majority, so we'll come and sit on the right. Okay? The Supreme Court says stay. Stay just means everything should remain as it is.
And Bagmin said nothing about that.
No. So why didn't we have Parliament in session?
Because he said your side did not show up. And if your side which runs business didn't come,
they didn't show up because their seats had been occupied.
No, but if they were in the chamber,
when you came here, if the seats here had been occupied, where were you going to sit to do business?
I would stand and ask you to give me permission to sit. And
there's no seat. The seats have been occupied.
Yeah, but you would.
So when you go to Parliament and people have taken your seats, why are you supposed to sit?
You occupy
on other people's seats.
You occupy the next available seat and ask the Speaker to do the right thing. And then that way you watch and see whether
that's what the way
he would do what the Supreme Court said or not.
Why would the Speaker allow people to sit on other people's seats?
Because the Speaker doesn't decide who sits where.
Sorry?
The Speaker is...
Who decides?
Isn't not a clerk?
Listen, Umaru, this is a serious business, but it's also a very simple matter. Who decided that the minority should go and sit on the majority?
The minority decided.
They decided.
Yes. The Speaker didn't say because of my decision.
And who maintains order in the House?
The Speaker.
All the Speaker had to do was ask them to move back to the minority seats. He did it.
Because there was nobody else to take over those seats.
All the Speaker had to do was reconvene Parliament, and if the NDC side went to sit on the right, because they are name tags.
You tell them that you are in the wrong place.
You tell them you are in the wrong place. Please move to you've moved to the right because of my ruling. My ruling has been stayed.
So you to stay.
So please stay. That's
okay. There's a question I'm going to ask you.
Why should this lead to confusion?
There's a question I asked some of your colleagues. I said that you've gone to win in the Supreme Court, but would you get a cooperation from the NDC side? Would you be able to win in the House of Parliament? Because you need them. Now, the House has been adjourned.
It is,
don't even know
listen,
whether it should be
the
called.
ruling of the Supreme Court is not a victory for either side.
Is it not?
It's a victory for democracy. This is not the first time the Supreme Court has ruled. In fact, if you do anything to thwart the effects of the ruling, you are undermining our democracy. Okay? And I don't think anybody wants to undermine our democracy. If we can make it work, then we are inviting other forces to come in. If we demonstrate that we, the politicians, cannot make the democracy work, then we are inviting other people to come in.
There are many people.
So I don't think the NDC side or any side is going to see it as a victory or a loss and go and moan somewhere. No. It's a victory for democracy. Look, this is not the first time the Supreme Court has ruled. In the early 90s, they ruled against Jerry Rawlings, the president, that you cannot celebrate 31st December and June 4 with public funds. That was the ruling of the Supreme Court. And Jerry Rawlings respected it, and we moved on.
Okay.
In the middle 90s, the Supreme Court ruled that ministers should come to Parliament for approval. How Parliament approves them is Parliament's business, but they should come to Parliament for approval. That was a ruling from the Supreme Court against the executive, and everybody complied. Recently, the Supreme Court has ruled that the President of Ghana cannot sack the Auditor General. We expect that every subsequent president would move, because that is how the system can move on. If you disobey the Supreme Court's right to interpret the Constitution, the whole system will collapse.
Let me talk to you about democracy a bit. As a former MP, do you think, okay, so this democracy, this parliament we have was supposed to be a test for our democracy.
Yeah.
Are you proud of the parliament we have produced? Because there were many who thought that if you have a parliament in opposition which is different from the government, you may see a lot more of checks and balance. Parliament will not be a rubber stamp. Yeah. We have a semblance of that now, but we have seen chaos throughout. Even though you're an MPP person, ideally you would want to have NPP having majority in the House. But as a former MP who wants to see democracy grow and the institution of Parliament grow, should we ever go for a hung parliament or an opposition parliament in the future?
All of them have their advantages. Okay. I'm sure you are aware of the complaint over the years that Parliament has been subservient to the executive. And people have tried to give all kinds of reasons. They say that, it's because the president has to take half of the ministers from Parliament. So every MP is trying to catch the president's eye. And so in the mandate given to Parliament, which is the oversight over the executive, is weakened because the people who are in Parliament and supposed to exercise that oversight want to please the president. So it makes Parliament weak. You've heard all this talk before and so on. So for the first time, when you had a Parliament that is not dominated by the president's party, which Parliament, the numbers are equal, and which Parliament also has a member of the opposition as speaker. The advantage is that you would expect they will be more diligent in their oversight role over the executive. We haven't seen much of it. That would be my only disappointment.
So you thought they could have done better, or they could have done more at holding the government? Would you not say, for instance, they fought the e-levy, I think they fought the e-levy. I don't remember what else they fought, even though they were not successful in all of them, but they did fight. They even fought a budget at a point where they disapproved of a budget. Or you thought that was just gimmicks?
No, I don't. I do not want to see a parliament dominated by the opposition.
You don't think it will work?
No, it will work. I don't see them. I don't want to see that kind of parliament because they will thwart government business.
Like they did Liman?
Yes. That's not, when I say exercise the oversight role, I'm not looking at just thwarting government business, but I'm looking at the oversight.
But we've seen that in the US.
Oversight means, look, as we speak, there are many instances where ministers and so on have to come to Parliament to account, and they haven't gone. And the MPs themselves will complain to you that, yes, we've filed these questions, we've done that, there's no accountability. Now, when you have the numbers equal, and you have the Speaker being a member of the opposition, you would expect that the oversight will be more robust and not come to complain. That is my only disappointment. But otherwise, if I'm as a politician, I like my party to have
both sides.
To have the executive and also have the parliament.
In the U.S., currently, the House of Parliament, as they call it, they have two chambers, but one of them is dominated by the opposition, and the Speaker is also from the opposition, just like we have here. And they are doing so well. They are the advanced democracy. We don't see what is happening there what's happening here happening there. Does it mean we have not matured in our democracy, or this type of democracy will not work for our type of parliament?
No, it's the same. It's the same democracy. You remember in the year 2000, we had an election where the party of Jerry Rawlings lost, and there was a smooth handover, even though we even went to the second round, and we had less than 2 weeks to hand over.
And Jerry had left his gun in the room by that time.
And in the US, they had done their election 1 month earlier, and they couldn't resolve their issues
for a long time.
Yeah. So really, democracy is not, it depends on the people at any given situation who are practicing it.
Very well.
But in the US, because their parliament is divided into two, they have the lower chamber, which they call the House of Representatives. And then they have the upper chamber, which they call the Senate. And so even in that parliament, in the same parliament, one body is also supposed to check the other body.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a more, they've made it a bit more complex by dividing the parliament into two, and even within the parliament, one is supposed to check the other. Which
is what your friend Alan Chamantin is promising. He wants to turn the Council of State into an upper chamber to checkmate Parliament. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. We are a smaller country. America is about 300 million. We are just about 30 million. These things come with money. I don't want to see government becoming more expensive. You're going to do these things, you have to get offices for them, you have to get all kinds of things. I'm rather looking for a situation which would reduce
the size
of government across all levels.
Very well.
And to bring down the cost of administration. Now, problems are much more basic. You need to provide drains. You need to provide
not
streets.
bureaucracies.
You need to, not bureaucracies. So,
talking about Parliament, your party didn't do well in the House of Parliament, and that's why you are having the problem you're having now, 137 seats. You are going into another election. Greater Accra region didn't do you good. The NDC says they're going to take as many as 5 seats from Greater Accra. You were an MP in Greater Accra region in the past. How confident are you on the parliamentary side of the election for your party? Well,
I am confident, but it remains at that level, confidence. The NDC too, I mean, if somebody were speaking about the NDC, they will also be confident. It will remain at that level, confidence. Fortunately for us, in another 3 weeks,
2 weeks,
the electorate will speak, and we will see, everybody will see their confidence level. But I am optimistic that the Dr. Bawumia will win the elections.
We'll talk about presidential. I'm interested in parliamentary.
And the NPP will carry the parliamentary vote.
You don't sound very confident.
No, I am. But I'm saying...
Have you put in the work? Because people are seeing what is happening, and the national politics may affect the MPs at the local level.
At the local level, it doesn't depend too much on national politics. It depends on the personalities.
So who is the MP or who is the candidate?
Who is the candidate and his relationship with the electorate and the electorate's perception of the candidate. So at the parliamentary level, of course, national politics affects everything. But the bigger factor at the parliamentary level is the personalities who are standing for the parties. And so I don't see how the national politics can affect the parliamentary much. Yeah. At the national level, well, you say we'll talk about that.
Yes, we'll talk about it. So then before we go, on parliament, you have, based on what the Supreme Court has decided, you have 3 independent people going against your MPs in various constituencies in the country.
Yeah.
Ab initio, you're starting with a 4th. What that means that if these independents succeed, you've already lost 3 seats as a party before.
Well, if we have a majority of 20,
you don't worry about losing.
Yeah.
So you have to pray to have a comfortable majority.
Yes, and we are going to get a comfortable majority. That's my confidence.
Very well. This is Face to Face on Channel 1 Television. My name is Umaru, Sanda, and I'm here with Nana Akomea. He's managing director of the State Transport Company. So far, we've not talked about STC. We've been talking about MPP in Parliament. When we come back, we'll talk about the man who wants to be the main driver, not of an STC bus, but the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Amadu Bawumia. He is vice chair of his campaign. How is the campaign looking? Please stay with us. You're welcome back. This is Face to Face on Channel 1 TV. My guest is Nana Akomea. He's vice chair of the Dr. Bawumia campaign. I have seen NDC people and some critics of your party say that the campaign is not looking good for you in Ashanti region, to the extent that you had to go and bring former President Kufuor out of retirement and force him to come and do an interview to endorse your candidate, and that the struggle is real for you as a party.
Who said the campaign is not looking good in Ashanti? Have you been monitoring over the last 1.5 weeks? Have you been monitoring?
Yes, I've been seeing. Your candidate has been there for 2 weeks.
Does this look like a campaign that is suffering?
Because he's there for 2 weeks, the view is that, the place is really bad, so he had to go and spend 2 weeks in your stronghold.
I heard 1 or 2 people interpret Bawumia's 2 weeks in the Ashanti region as a sign that there's a problem in the Ashanti region. And those people, they say they are political marketers. They don't know what they are talking about. I am a politician. I'm not a theory, practical politician. And I know that your stronghold should always take more of your time. But you see, Ashanti region is not taking a disproportionate amount of Bawumia's time. If you've been following the campaign of Dr. Bawumia, you would see that he does 3 constituencies in a day. That's usually 3 constituencies. Even with the primaries, when he was doing the primaries, we would do 3 constituencies in one day. We thought, some of us thought it was too much sometimes, because you finish up 11 p.m. sometimes and so on. But that's what he used to do, 3 constituencies in one day. And in the main campaign, he's still doing 3 constituencies in one day. So the amount of time he spends in a region depends on the number of constituencies. Now, Ashanti region has 47 constituencies. If he's spending 3 constituencies in one day, to cover the 47, he needs 15 plus days. So the campaign in Ashanti is not different. It just depends on the numbers of the constituencies. And he's doing 3 in one day. They've got 47. So if he's going to cover the 47, he needs 2 weeks and 2 days. So what is the basis of anybody saying that he's spending a disproportionate time in Ashanti region? It's not because Ashanti is they spend the same time in Greater Accra, he spend the same time in Eastern region. 3 constituencies in one day. In fact, yesterday in Ashanti, he did 4, which was too much. But he did 4. But because these constituencies were in Kumasi, he did in Shaiso, he did Subin, he did Asawase, and I forgot one more. 4, but because they were in Kumasi. Today he's doing Ahafo, all the 3. Ahafo South, Ahafo East, and Ahafo Southeast. 3 today. And that is the norm. In Accra, he did 3 a day. He did, when he came here, he did Okankwe North, Okankwe South, Okankwe Central one day. It's the same schedule. It's the same schedule. So the amount of time he spends in any region depends on the number of constituencies. Ashanti has 47. So the largest number of constituencies.
How about the Kufuor interview? The Kufuor factor is a non-issue that, the ground was shaking, so you needed to bring perhaps the most successful MPP member from the region to come and speak to the people and say that I'm still here with you, I'm supporting Dr. Bawumia?
But isn't it a laugh? It's a laugh.
It's laughable.
It's laughable. I mean, Kufuor is not as active as he used to be. I can assure you. If he was active, he would be doing more. Not because of any fear, but it's because he's a member of the NPP. And he wants the NPP to succeed. And he wants to contribute to that effort. How does anybody read meaning into it?
Your friend, whom you served in government with together in the past and now, Alan Chamantin, says Kufuor's behavior has put a blot on his political campaign or political career or future. I think I've forgotten the exact term, but he thinks that it was a politically suicidal decision for John Kufuor to associate with Dr. Bawumia the way he did. What do you say to that? You've known Akomea, you've known Alan Chamantin for long.
It's sad that Alan Chamantin feels that way. Who did Alan Chamantin expect Kufuor to support?
Him,
Alan Chamantin. But he's not a member of the NPP.
But he's been Kufuor's boy, according to all the things we heard in the past.
Is he a member of the NPP?
Currently, no.
So if Kufuor goes to support Alan Chamantin, Kufuor has taken himself out of the NPP.
That's true.
Now,
then you should still
listen,
don't
President Kufuor, I think in the NPP, currently, Kufuor at one point used to be everybody's boss, including President Akufo. So Kufuor is like the old lady in the house, what Chi Akan people will call Abriwetia. Abriwetia is like the old lady. That's how Kufuor is. Even Akufado used to be
defer to him.
All of us, we are little people, but we're all. The Abriwetia in the party, you said he should go and endorse you, Alan, who is not in the party. You didn't follow him to stay in the party. You left, and he should follow you. Between Kufuor and Alan, who should follow each other? Between Kufuor and Alan, who should follow each other? Who should follow the other? Now, and he look. I heard some of the things he said. It made me sad. Look, Kufuor appointed Alan ambassador to the US. At the time he did the appointment, there were people in the NPP who could have gotten that appointment. He also appointed Alan as a minister for trade and industry. At the time he did that appointment, there were people in the NPP who could do that, who could have taken that appointment. So you would take his appointments, but you will not take his disappointments.
I have spoken to your former deputy who took over from you, YB, Bawumia Samoa.
Yeah.
And he said Alan was way accomplished before Kufuor gave him that job that he gave him, and that, in fact, Alan would have been the only guy to have defeated Kufuor in the primaries of '96. And so he was his own man, and that he was given that ambassadorial position on merit, the trade minister position on merit. And so we shouldn't make it sound as if Alan is a creation of Kufuor.
In the NPP, I mean, the people who speak this way, I don't know what's come over them. But listen, in the NPP primaries, Alan was not even second.
He was third. They said it was a rigged election.
That's what they say?
Yeah. They said it was not properly conducted.
It was rigged for the second and the first person.
For him to be third.
How about the elections in 2012?
That one was okay.
How about elections in 2008?
That's why he didn't leave. That's why he stayed there, but he left this time.
No, in 2008 he left.
But he came back.
But you've done, you've offered yourself for elections as a presidential aspirant for this party in 2008. It wasn't rigged. 2012, it wasn't rigged. 2016, it wasn't rigged. It's only the 2023 that is rigged. In what way?
He said it was all planned, orchestrated to make sure that he loses, and that's why he left it.
How was it?
That you're an undemocratic party.
In what way?
In so many ways as to...
The primaries that took place, you were a keen observer.
Yes.
And your station.
Yeah.
Where was the rigging?
He is the one who has been in elections for all
And have you asked him to show where the rigging was?
Is he going to be a problem for you as a party, Alan?
No.
In Ashanti especially?
No, I trust that Alan will come back at some point. Because he did the same thing in 2008 and he came back.
Yeah, the people begged him at the time. They are not around.
Which people begged him?
Oh, the people who begged him to come back at the time, they are no more. So that's why perhaps they say that your party doesn't have the elders that would ensure sanity anymore. That's why he left. And
elders like Kufuor?
I mean, Kufuor at the time was not necessarily the elder that would have spoken to him. You know who I'm talking about.
Which elder goes beyond the former president?
The Ashanti region is crucial for you, Nana Akomea.
Yes.
And you have Alan coming from there, you have Cheddar coming from there. There are people who hold the view that those are very serious contenders for you because that's your World Bank. You don't want anybody eating away from your World Bank.
You followed this politics for quite a while.
Yes.
You know that in the first past the post democracy which we are running, there's no room for third parties. And check the history of third party performance. 2000 elections, there was a splinter group from the NPP, Reform or something.
No, the Reform is from NDC.
No,
Rekubrogo was UGM.
Yeah,
United Ghana Movement.
Rekubrogo was a stalwart of the party.
Yeah.
The NDC also had a splitter group.
Reform Party.
Check the votes they got. 0 point something, 1 point something. Check 2008. Is it 8? Okay, 8. When the chairman of the NDC left and formed another party, Obeda Samoa and his people, stalwarts. Chairman of the NDC, he left and formed his own party. Kunedu Ajuman Rawlings, first lady for how many years?
The most powerful woman.
He left the NDC and formed her own party. What did she get? So the record, not speculation,
the history,
not belief, not emotion. The record on the ground shows you that. Look, Kwesi Ndum, powerful man at that time, presidential candidate of the CPP. He left the CPP from his own party. What did he get? The system that we have doesn't encourage, in America, it doesn't encourage third parties. In America, they've been doing this for over 200 years.
They still have two.
They still have two. And if you are a politician and you can't recognize this, and you say you want to go and form a splinter party, then what kind of politician
Except
are you?
that the other person is not a politician, strictly speaking, Cheddar, and he appears to be appealing to the younger voters. The polls put him in a very good position.
I am happy you use the word appears. Look, in the NPP primaries, there were all kinds of appearances.
But when the dust settled. Let's talk about Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia now. I saw a colleague put up a post where he said that Dr. Bawumia has brought in electronic buses into this country. And if he can do that, it means there's a lot more that he can do. He can scrap e-levy. He can fix the CD. He doesn't have to wait until after December 7 to do them. When he promises that I will do A, B, C, D, such as scrapping the tax on mobile phones, reducing the cost of data, the question would be, in the national governance interest, why is he not doing these things now? And why is he using them as a promise?
Okay, so you have somebody who was a sitting president in the form of John Mahama. He was a sitting president.
Commander-in-Chief.
Commander-in-Chief and all of that. In the 2016, when he was standing for re-election, he told us new things that he would do. If I give you the NDC manifesto for 2016 election, he was telling us a lot of new things he would do as sitting president.
Chapter 2.
So if, yes, I like that chapter. So if even a sitting president can give a new vision for another election, why can't a sitting vice president?
Because this is a former president who is seeking to complete his term.
I'm saying, when he was president, 6 months to the end of his tenure, he gave us a new manifesto.
Yes, because he had an agenda to roll out and he has not finished.
So, the question then should have been, what stops him or what stopped him from pursuing that agenda?
Yeah, but he couldn't have finished everything in 4 years.
As we speak, you know it. Executive authority rests with the president of Ghana, not the vice president. Now, if you say you want to blame a vice president, and you hear them blame, they say Bawumia is responsible for the economic difficulties.
Because he was the one who was described as, we have the men.
Listen, Bawumia was very articulate in the NPP campaign in 2016 in talking about the things the NPP would do, the economy, all of those things. He was very articulate. Even me, who was the director of communication, there's a lot that I said. I said that the NPP will build a certain number of secondary schools. I said the NPP will do all kinds of stuff. Because that is the promise in the manifesto. And I articulated some of them. Bawumia was very articulate in articulating the provisions of the...
Do you think he over-articulated?
He was, as I speak to you, you've come to me because you think that I can articulate on the issues that you want articulated on.
You're not over-articulate.
Somebody may interpret it as over-articulate.
Okay.
So that is your interpretation.
Okay.
Now, he was very articulate in talking about those things. But when you are in government, the fact that you articulated those things doesn't give you the responsibility. It is still an executive presidency. Look, when Mahama was succeeded Mills in July, 5-6 months later, at the presidential debate, he said that, look, what I'm doing the last 5-6 months is I'm just fulfilling the term of President Mills. I'm a spare president. I want the mandate to have my own authority. Even when he was a sitting president, he said he was a spare.
Caretaker.
When he was actually in the chair. Then somebody who's not in the chair, they say that he should go and do the things he wants. In the 2016 campaign, the NDC told their supporters in the north that if you vote for the NPP, your man there is a mate. If you take your matters to him, he is going to take them to Akufo-Addo. If Akufo-Addo disagrees, there your matter ends.
So a choice between a driver and a mate.
But if you vote for NDC, your man there is the driver. So today what has changed? I don't understand the NDC.
Does it mean that this mate is not being listened to by his driver? That's why all these brilliant ideas he's articulating now were not executed?
Well, if you are a vice, it has its limitations. There's no constitutional rule for the vice.
You are just an aplanke.
Yeah, there's no constitutional rule for the vice in our constitution. The president may even assign you some responsibility, but it's the responsibility that has been assigned to you, you need to report to the president. We cannot pretend that that is not the case. And when I hear the NDC and some people saying that, I get amused because we are pretending it is not a presidential system. It is a presidential system. And what are the two people contesting? They are not contesting for the position of vice president. They are contesting for the position of president. Bawumia has never been president. Indeed, it is John Mahama who has been president before. So he's the one we should be asking. What chance did you not get to implement what you're talking about?
But the things that he promised, Dr. Bawumia, for and on behalf of the NPP and the government, a lot of these things have not been implemented. So the issue of double speak then will come up, that you promise one thing and or fail to deliver. If you could not be trusted to have delivered the thing that was part of a package that you belonged to in the past, why should we trust you this time around?
Oh, look, there have been difficulties, economic difficulties. We all agree. But you would also agree that in the first 3 years of this government, 2017 to 2019, the government's performance as far as the economy was concerned was world class. In fact, the Ghana's economic performance in those 3 years, 2017 to 2019, were agreed as some of the best in the whole world. A growth rate of 8% of GDP in 2017, 6.2% in 2018, 6.5% in 2019, were some of the best in the world. In 2020, with the advent of COVID, the growth rate dropped from 6.5 to 0.8. When you have that kind of drop, it will affect your debt to GDP, because debt to GDP is a ratio of your debt and your GDP. Now, when your GDP falls to that level, it will affect the ratios. It will affect a lot of things.
The counter argument is
but it is not only Ghana, it's all over the world. But even if you say that John Mahama goes abroad to Harvard and give lectures and talks eloquently about the difficulties that COVID has brought to Africa, when he comes back to Ghana, he says there's no COVID. It's Akufo-Addo and Bawumia. Fine. So there are difficulties now. So what are you looking for? You are looking for a way out of the difficulties. Between John Mahama and Bawumia, whose vision answers to the difficulties that we are in?
Don't answer that. Let me take a break. When we come back, Nana Akomea will tell me the difference in the two visions of, well, interesting, they're both from the northern part of the country, but one is on the left side of the north, one on the right side of the north. If you are driving from Accra to Bolgatanga, one is from Wale Wale, one is from Bole. And Nana Akomea is supporting the one from Wale Wale. And mind you, if you're going to the north, you will go past Bole Junction before you get to Wale Wale Junction. I asked him why he decided to go past Bole and why he thinks that the visions of Wale Wale are better than the visions of Bole. Please stay with us. This is Face to Face. You're welcome back. This is Face to Face on Channel 1 TV. My name is Umaru Sanda. Amadu. My guest is Nana Akomea. He's vice chairman of the Dr. Bawumia campaign. So, Doc, you are not doctor, Nana Akomea. On December 7, when a voter picks the ballot paper, forget all the other images. What do you think is a clear distinction for them in your favor between number 1 and number 8 on the ballot?
I mean, we all agree that there are difficulties. So the voter is going to look at the person who is giving a clear way out of the difficulties and is giving a way that the voter can identify with. Look, the cost of living is a major problem, and that goes to the heart of the economy. The cost of the one major factor is the cedi, because we are a dollar-dominated economy. So anytime the value of the dollar goes up, it means the value of the cedi goes down, and so costs go up. What is the NDC offering in terms of managing the cedi as against Bawumia? What the NDC, they have this is their resetting the economy for prosperity.
Oh, so it's an NDC document you are holding?
Yes.
Doing what? You are copying from it so that you've written marks on it?
No, I want to show you proof.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. It says that in the first 120 days in office, we will hold a national economic dialogue to draw up a 4-year fiscal plan.
Yes, hear from everybody, bring everybody on board.
So what so
like they did in Senchi.
And what happened to Senchi? I wasn't going to mention it, but what happened to Senchi? The day they came from Senchi, they threw everything away and went to the IMF. So they don't even have a good record in terms of what comes out of economic dialogue.
This is consultation. It's a good thing.
I'm saying they don't have a good record in working with the consultation.
So you're saying that they may consult, but
they came out of Senchi. The next day they went to the IMF. There was no IMF recommendation at Senchi.
Okay.
Now, you are now coming into office and you are now going to do a dialogue before you can draw up economic recovery program. Then they say they would implement emergency measures to stabilize the Ghana cedi and the macroeconomy. What emergency measures? Say you are now going to do a conference to be able then to come out with a 4-year program. Okay, so let's say in the meantime, you come up with what measures? So these are just statements.
They've done it in the past. They've cut salaries.
What Bawumia is saying is that we would restore fiscal balance.
That's also English.
No, he's shown you how. We would take 30 billion spending from government expenditure. Expenditure that goes to things that the private sector can deliver. That means commercially viable projects, infrastructure projects that are commercially viable. Put in place a framework, a PPP, public-private partnership, and a concession framework that can allow private sector to deliver those projects. Look at Lagos. When I was at Lagos, it was 5,000 population. Today it's over 40,000. You know why? Because they put in place a PPP and a concession framework that allow private people to go and build hostels. And now the private built hostels are more than the public hostels.
So give a private sector led.
Restore the thing back to the private sector. There is no reason why we should be doing Accra Kumasi with public funds when we don't have the funds.
What would be the interest of the private person?
Bawumia is saying,
yes,
put in place a PPP and a concession arrangement that can allow private people to come in with an office, and then we subject the office to the best one and we pick it.
And you bring back road tolls, which you said was not good.
But when you go to everywhere in the world, when you go to America,
they toll the roads.
Every 50 kilometers there's a toll.
And you, MPP government, removed it. Nobody put a cane to your butt or put a gun to your head. We still.
I'm talking of Bawumia's vision.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So we should separate and be distinct.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Talking of Bawumia's vision.
So
this is what I'm going to do.
Your appointee at the state transport company is not happy with your policy on road tolls. Continue on Akomea. I was reporting you to your boss.
Now, so you get a private sector, you can come and put in a 6-lane and toll an agreed figure. Look, if you put even 100 cedi toll and you can do a 6-lane from Accra to Kumasi, it's cheap. You know why? Because now with the state of the road, you spend 5 hours. If you have a 6-lane, that 250 kilometers, you can do it in 2.5 hours. That 2.5 hours or 3 hours that you save is more than 100 cedis. More importantly, your safety is assured, because the accidents that come and kill people is headlong. When you have a 3-lane going and 3-lane coming, that will go. And Bawumia is going to put in this PPP and actively seek for private sector participation in all of this. And that will take about 30 billion cedis from government expenditure. He's also going to increase revenue by broadening the tax base. He hasn't just said it like they have it here. He's shown you how. You and I, we pay direct tax. We're in the tax bracket because we hold formal jobs, your camera people and so on. But there are millions of Ghanaians who are not in formal employment. Those people like you and me who pay direct tax, because we can be identified, which is about 4 million. Today, the Ghana card gives 17 million Ghanaians an identity. They have the Ghana card, which is a digital identity. They have the GPS, which is an address. They have Momo, which gives them a bank account. And the Ghana card is also their TIN.
So it's easy to tax people.
It's easy to identify people.
And tax people.
And
bring back to tax us more.
No, not you.
Us.
See? No, not bring more people. Because the NDC said they will increase the tax net. But they haven't shown you how. I'm only giving you this to show that Bawumia is not
parameters.
Bawumia is not just saying some platitudes. And John Mahama said the same things in 2012 and 2013. I will increase the tax net. I will stabilize the macroeconomy. Without showing us how. Bawumia has practical steps. So it says that this 17 million, if you take out the 4 million who are already paying in the tax bracket, you have another 13 million. If you take 3 million for students, you have 8 to 9 million people who would pay a flat, simple tax. Maybe 50%, 50 cedis.
No, we have to.
And that would then allow him to remove e-levy.
We need to end this conversation.
And not burden you with more taxes.
We need to end this conversation, but I have a question for you. In 2000, you were elected a member of parliament. The person you went with as a presidential candidate said, that's what Kufuor said.
Yes.
if we were to look at our Asitinemu today, if you were an ordinary voter, does your Asitinemu give you the permission to continue, or it will give you it will say to you to change?
We are telling the people the same thing, that we are Asitinemu, but we will be free with Asitinemu.
But as a person who has put you in that Asitinemu, why would you?
No, we are saying that what Bawumia tells the Ghanaian people is that there are difficulties.
Yes.
These are the ways out of the difficulties. What is the other side offering? They are offering a national dialogue and so on.
But you agree that on the face value, that Asitinemu is not good?
If you are in difficulty,
yes,
what do you look for?
Comfort.
No, a way out.
Yes. Through change.
Through change. Bawumia is change.
Is it?
Yes. Bahama is not change.
How?
If you are going to talk change, how is Bawumia and Bahama? How are they change? Bahama has been president.
Yes.
He had 4.5 years to show. What did he show? Why was he thrown away? So if you actually want change, it's Bawumia, because he's never been president. But what we tell the Ghanaian people, it's not enough to be in difficulties. Who is offering you a way out of your difficulty? And that's where the election will turn.
Unfortunately, we have not had the chance to talk about your STC buses. You got new fleets?
We are expecting new fleets.
When are they coming? Before the election, after the election?
No. We are expecting new fleet in March.
In March? By then you will not be
You don't buy... Yeah, but I have to put in place the processes.
But is it working well?
You don't get 50 buses, in 3 weeks.
But things going well with you?
You have to set the technical specs. You have to go to the manufacturers, negotiate everything. It's quite a process.
Is your company growing? Are you enjoying STC? If Bawumia wins and says remain at STC,
would have been the best transport company in West Africa if the conditions between 2017 and 2019 had persisted.
So you want blaming COVID?
Absolutely, because our cost is fuel and spare parts.
Yeah.
Now, when you have COVID and the CD rises to how much price of fuel? Let me cut it short. Between 2017 and 2019, those 3 years when the economy was stable, fuel was 26% of my cost.
And now it is what?
During the COVID time, fuel went to 58% of my cost.
That's crazy. Nana Akomea, if Bawumia wins and says, I want you to remain at STC, will you?
I will serve in whatever capacity I can be useful.
You're happy to continue to be here?
I'm saying, I will serve in whatever capacity I'll be useful.
That's Nana Akomea.
It's not about me. It's about the service.
You heard Nana Akomea. As a man who didn't take up an appointment as a minister in the Akufo-Addo government, decided to be an STC bus driver. He is currently vice chairman of the Bawumia campaign, managing director of the STC.
I wasn't offered. I was offered an ambassadorial position.
Okay, so which is more juicier. He would have been called Your Excellency. He said he doesn't want. He wants to be called Mr. CEO. My name is Umaru, Sanda, Amadu. We'll be back again next week. Thank you for watching us.